Blair Lutheran Church welcomes you to worship on Maundy Thursday. Here is Vicar Paul with the Gospel reading.
The Gospel for today is from John, the 13th chapter. Now, before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and to go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. And during supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands and that he had come from God and was going to God, got up from the table, took off his outer robe, tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered, "You do not know now what I am doing, but later you will understand." Peter said to him, "You'll never wash my feet." Jesus answered him, "Unless I wash you, you will have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not only my feet then, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "One who has bathed does not need to wash except for the feet, but is entirely clean. And you are clean, though not all of you." For he knew who was to betray him, and for this reason he had said, "Not all of you are clean." After he had washed their feet and had put on his robe, he had returned to the table, and he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought also to wash one another's feet. For I have set you an example, that you also should do as I have done to you. Very truly, I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor are the messengers greater than the ones who sent them. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them." The Gospel of the Lord. Welcome to Maundy Thursday. This is probably the day in the church year that is my favorite? Not really, means the most. I mean, really, words kind of fail me. Except that this day is one that never fails to touch something deep inside me. It, of all the days that we celebrate, has resisted being glitzed up. Good Friday, powerfully dramatic. Easter, Christmas, well, they're flooded with pomp and circumstance. And I love each of those days for different reasons, but Maundy Thursday is the day that grabs me like no other. And it starts with the name Maundy, which comes from the Latin word mandatum, which means commandment or order, from which we get our word mandate, and is related to the word mandatory. It refers to the mandatum novum, the new commandment, which Jesus imparts in John 13. "I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." Another way of looking at this is that Jesus is saying that this is the sum total of everything that I've been teaching you. This is the lens with which you must look at everything you do and everything you say if you're going to follow me. Love first. Everything else comes later. As I've continued to grow spiritually, this statement has been my guiding star. When I run into a scriptural passage that seems to contradict this, I have to slow down and learn more. And when I do, it always comes back to this: love one another, love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. As I say to the confirmation students, loving God equals loving your neighbor. God, who has given us everything, life, liberty, grace, salvation, wants us to pay it forward. Luther said, God does not need your good works, but your neighbor does. And in this time of COVID-19, we are beginning to really understand that we are all connected. We are interdependent and intertwined with our neighbors here. In days past, we were much more cognizant of that. We shopped at the local hardware store, the grocery, the variety store, and so on, because the owners and their employees all shopped at our bakery or filled up at our gas station or bought the cars that we were selling. We knew that the community's survival and ability to thrive depended on each one of us. Somewhere along the line, we've forgotten that. This pandemic has reminded us of that, and not only are we interdependent within our own community, but we're connected to everyone around the world. A stranger washing their hands or wearing a mask can affect our health. A delivery person or someone packaging something up that I bought online can affect my very life. And if I neglect to wash my hands or wear a mask or disinfect, I can be a hazard to anyone. The well-being of my neighbor is tied up in my well-being. For me to love my neighbor as myself means that I have to understand that deep connectedness. No one is outside, not the other political party, not the refugee, not the foreigner, or the gay person, or the trans person, or the person who works 80 hours a week, or the one that gets by on social safety nets, not the addict, not the recovering addict, not the genius or the developmentally challenged, not the Norwegians or the Mexicans or the Saudis, not the ones with good work ethics or the ones with no work ethic, not Lutherans, Catholics, Hindi, Muslims, atheists, not the able-bodied or the differently abled, not the people of honor or the people who con, swindle, and betray others. No one is outside. No one. Love one another. No exceptions. We who follow Jesus refer to ourselves as the body of Christ, here to be the hands and feet of Christ in this world. We don't get to exclude anyone. This is the hardest commandment because we so desperately want to not have to love those who are dirty or lazy or who do things differently or believe differently, or most importantly, perhaps, those who have hurt us, intentionally or otherwise. In this story, Jesus has washed the feet of every disciple, has shared bread with every disciple, knowing full well that Judas was going to betray him. But he doesn't confront Judas until after he's shared a meal and washed his feet. And only after Judas has left does he tell the rest, "Love one another as I have loved you." Even though Jesus knew Judas would betray him and he would suffer and be killed, he did not exclude Judas from those things that bound them together. This is the sum total of all I've been teaching you. This is the lens through which you must look at everything you say and do if you are to follow me. Love first. Love in word and deed. We like to hold grudges and to treat people poorly. It makes us feel superior and self-righteous. We don't know why Judas betrayed Jesus. 30 pieces of silver? That's unlikely. since Judas held the common purse, so he had access to all the money that anybody ever gave them. We reserve our harshest judgments for people who betray us, or they betray some ideal that we hold. People like Benedict Arnold, or that guy who joined the Taliban to fight in Afghanistan, the cheating spouse, the boss who promised a promotion but gave it to somebody else instead. These are the people that make us feel superior and self-righteous. Why do you suppose that is? In one of my psych courses, it was pointed out that we hate in other people that which we most hate in ourselves. I think we hate the betrayers because at some level we recognize that we are all capable of that very same thing. We are all capable of betraying trust, capable of whispering something we were asked to keep or should keep a secret. We find it hard to forgive. What we find it hard to forgive is that thing that we struggle with ourselves. We like to think that our motives are always pure, but we carry that dark side. Judas betrayed Jesus openly. The others just poof, disappeared by the time that Jesus was being beaten. We're told Peter's story a little bit, denying knowing Jesus 3 times, but all of them had split by the time the going got really dangerous. Sooner or later, we all betray Jesus. The kid who is jibed by his classmates, "You go to church?" "Nah, my parents just make me sometimes." We betray Jesus when we walk by the homeless person with a sneer of derision. We betray Jesus when we strike back at someone who's called us a name or offended us. We betray Jesus when we put on an indifferent attitude when we do our work, so it isn't the best that we can do. We betray Jesus when we make business decisions that increase our profit at somebody else's expense. We betray Jesus when we have a bad day and take it out on our family at home. We all betray Jesus. And it sits in our hearts, festering in them, then going viral when someone says or does something that we can pounce on to make ourselves feel superior and self-righteous. No one is immune. No one is outside. All are in need of forgiveness, love, and redemption. Maundy Thursday, this Last Supper, is a feast of love in which Jesus exemplifies the sacrificial love that he expects of his followers. He washes their feet, even of the one that would betray him to his death. He sets before them a pattern of service, of humility, of bearing one another's burdens. This isn't a helpful hint. It's not a mere suggestion. This is a commandment. This is an order, a mandate. It is mandatory. Love one another. Jesus' commandment is even more than an example. It's the salvation of God coming to us by the Son, as it is played out right after this. God embraces the hostile world. God so loves the world that he gave his Son. Jesus' death reveals grace in suffering, power in weakness, exaltation in humiliation. This is the upside-down understanding of God and of grace and of salvation. We become more like Christ, not by dominating others or bending them to our will, but by giving of ourselves to them. This night, this holy night, not only introduces a model to live by, it also introduces the meaning of the Lord's Supper and the ultimate meaning of this upside-down life that we try to live, that we recognize that we are all connected in, through, and by the greatest love that can be. Holy God, may your one Spirit bring us together into our one humanity. You who are one, may we be one with you. Bless us with your grace and mercy as our bewildered souls seek to channel your love into this ailing world. Amen. Go to dark Gethsemane, all who feel the tempter's power, your Redeemer's conflict see. Watch with him one bitter hour. Turn not from his griefs away. Learn from Jesus Christ to pray. Follow to the judgment hall. View the Lord of life arraigned. Oh, the wormwood and the gall. Oh, the pangs his soul contained. Shun not suffering, shame, or loss. Learn from him to bear the cross. Calvary's mournful mountain climb, there adoring at his feet, mark that miracle of time, God's own sacrifice complete. It is finished, hear him cry. Learn from Jesus Christ to die.